Good evening, everyone. I hope you're having a wonderful day. I'm glad to be back. It's been a while since I've done a video. Been busy with a bunch of stuff. I was having a lot of computer problems. I virtually had to restore my Mac to the factory setting, get everything working again. But nonetheless, everything is up and running, and I'm ready to start my weekly tutorials. But today I want to introduce you guys to a new tutorial that I recorded. It's a 65-minute tutorial titled The Beginner's Guide to Learning the Piano. And basically, this video is literally a step-by-step guide for the beginner. You know, say you're a beginner, you just bought a piano or a keyboard yesterday, and now you're on YouTube, you're looking for instructions to get you started, you're looking for videos to teach you how to play the piano because probably you don't have access to a teacher in your town, you probably don't have time to schedule piano lessons, or probably there's just no one in your area that teaches the stuff you're interested in. And so that's why you're here on YouTube looking at videos. But I know YouTube can be overwhelming because there's thousands of videos, millions of videos, and so many people doing piano lessons, so many different style of teaching, and different people cater to different stuff. You have guys that just does the gospel preaching chords or the gospel stuff. Some guys just do the jazz stuff. There are different things. And so when you're a beginner, there's no real focus as to, okay, this is the first thing you do, this is the second thing, this is a third thing, sort of a list to get you started, get some momentum going, and get you in the direction that you want to go. So I decided to create a video that sort of addresses all that. So in this video, I sort of go through like about 30 different topics and headlines in the order you should be working on these things as a beginner. And the video starts with me explaining the first basic thing, which is the keys of the keyboard. How do you know where A is, where B is, C is, and so on. So the video goes through that. Then I go through knowing your intervals. I talk about the major scale because, again, that's where everything starts. Then primary chords. And primary chords are in every key, chord 1, chord 4, and chord 5. For example, we're in the key of C. Talk about the importance of that and how you should learn your primary chords in every key. That was me doing the primary chords in F sharp. Go to the key of G. I also talked about the secondary chords. We have primary chords, we got secondary chords. And the secondary chords are chord 2, using C as example, chord 3, chord 6, chord 7. Now chord 7 is the only one that's different because the quality of chord 7 is a diminished. And I didn't dive too much into that because I'm going to wait until we get to the intermediate level, then I dive into that. And if you're anxious, I did create a tutorial on the diminished chord, so you can go check that out too by just looking on in my playlist of videos. So that's the secondary chords. Then I went on to chord inversions, and basically the concept of chord inversions is that every triad, every 3-note chord can be played 3 different ways. You got root position, first inversion, second inversion. Those are the 3 ways. And if you go up again, we get to root position. And as you can see, inversions is just basically me taking the lower note, putting it at the top. Taking the lower note, putting it at the top, taking the lower note, putting it at the top. And so I dive all about inversions in this video. I talk about popular progressions. Because as a beginner, one of the things you want to get started on is to start messing around with some of the progressions that you hear in pop music, especially on the radio, and in some gospel music to get used to that progression. I didn't go through all the popular progressions, but I picked 4 progressions that I think you'd most likely hear in 90% of every popular tunes out there. And the first one is 1-4-5, and that's basically going to the 1 chord in the key, going to the 4 chord, and going to the 5 chord. This is also, again, the primary chords that I spoke about not too long ago. And you want to be able to get used to playing these. That was just me playing straight 1, 4, 5 with little fillings here and there. And so as a beginner, you want to incorporate that in your practicing. The other chord I talked about is the 2, 5, 1. Now this particular chord is special in so many ways, because once you get into intermediate and advanced, 2, 5, 1 take on a whole new meaning as we dive into substitutions and reharmonizations, tritones, and all of that. That concept of 2, 5, 1 gets bigger, and so you want to get used to playing 2, 5, 1. And then again, that's just going to chord 2, chord 5, chord 1. Again, chord 2, chord 5, chord 1. Chord 2, chord 5. The third chord I talked about in the primary beginning series video is the 1, 6, 4, 5, 1. And what that is, again, chord 1, chord 6, chord 4, chord 5, chord 1. And this progression, you probably heard, you might, oh, that sounds like a song that I know. It's used a lot in a lot of songs. 1, 6, 4, 5. And so the fourth popular progression that I talk about in the series is a 1, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. 1, 3, 6, then to 2, 5, 1. And so those are just some popular progressions I discussed in the video. I talked about ear training. And what is ear training? It's basically start training your ear to be susceptible to different changes in sounds and chords, because practicing the piano is not just sitting and playing. A huge part of developing yourself as a musician is listening, and listening critically. So I discussed, active listening versus passive listening. A lot of non-musicians tend to do what we call passive listening, where, music's playing in the background and you're talking or you're driving, and you're not really listening to the music. Or even some of the favorite songs for passive listeners, they'll know the melody and they can sing along to the song, and that's about it. For us now, musicians, when you're in the beginning stage, you want to start training your ear to dig deeper. So you start listening to instrumentation. Can you identify the different instruments? Can you identify the roles they're playing? If there are 3 guitar players, 2 guitar players, who is playing chords? How are they trading that sort of space? Who plays melody when chord? How is the guitarist incorporating his chords with what the pianist is doing to ensure that no one is sort of stepping on each other? And that's when you get into active listening. You start listening to the bass line. Bass line's a huge part of being able to hear bass changes, because when we get into transcription, into intermediate, advanced level, the bass is sort of what we rely on to tell what the chords, where the chords are going. And so you get, start training your ear to listening to bass lines and stuff like that. I also talked about being able to regurgitate things that you hear. If you hear a melody, Are you able to sing it back or hum it back correctly? Are you able to pick it out on the piano? So stuff like that I talk about in the video. A huge part that I also discussed in the video are goals and how to practice. And this is a big proponent for a lot of folks is how to practice. A lot of people don't really even set goals. And so I want to challenge you to start doing that in 2017. You want 2017 to be the year you really take your piano playing to another level. Whether you're just starting out or you've been dabbling on and off for a few years, let's make a pledge that 2017 we're going to turn that around. And that start with goal. It might sound cliche, goal setting, but having a reason, a fundamental reason, okay, this is why I'm playing the piano. For me, when I started learning the piano back about a decade ago or so, for me it was entertainment. It was a place I could escape to express myself musically through the piano. And that was what music was for me. That's it. I had no intention to take music to the career level. It was just a means of expression, something that I enjoy doing. And so that was my goal, to be able to get good enough to be able to do that. But goals change. As you get better, goals change. And so you also don't want to limit yourself. Whatever crazy goal you might have that seems just unrealistic, shoot for it. Because now I teach piano full-time in the days. I play in like 6 different bands, and a few of them I'm the director of the bands. I never thought that any of that would be possible for me because I started music pretty late. I was like 19 years old, and that's when I decided I was going to take music to the professional level. And so what I want you to do is think, what drove you initially to say, I'm going to go buy a keyboard or buy a piano? What instinct pushed you to do that? And think back and find that single reason. This is the reason I want to learn. It could be just that, you want to entertain your grandkids, you want to entertain your kids, or you want to entertain your friends at parties. Or like me, it might be a source of expression for you. You want to think about all those things. It could be that, the church you're attending doesn't really have a musician, and, you're saying, I'm going to learn some stuff so I can play for services during the week or on Sundays or Saturdays or whenever your services are. That's good goal. Just have a goal, something that is going to motivate you. Because for us, a lot of us, why we don't improve as much as what we'd want, we don't have a reason why. And so find that reason. And I discussed all of that in the video. And then when I talk about how to practice, this is a big problem for a lot of folks. A lot of years for me, I didn't know how to practice. And so there's a difference between sitting down and playing stuff you already know and practicing. Practicing should be a deliberate, I don't know this, I need to know that. I'm practicing towards that. And so I talked about setting up your practices into different segments. For example, if you're practicing for an hour, break that up into 3 20-minute blocks. And I talk about the topics that you should be focusing on when you're practicing. I like to break up my practice sessions into technique, progressions, and repertoire. And technique building is just getting the fingers working, activities. And some activities you can do for that are using scales. I'm all about scale practicing because, when you're learning your major scales, there's so many other things that you're learning subconsciously. And so you're not only building strength and dexterity with your fingers, you're knowing your major scales. So when time comes for you to start building chords, you can know what note belongs to the scale. When time comes for you to start playing melody or improvisation, it's all about a greater understanding of the scale that's going to help you to do that. And so scale practicing falls under the technique building. I also talked about arpeggios, which is basically being able to play your chords. When you watch videos and you see people doing stuff like, those are arpeggios they're playing. But first, you're going to start slow. And I went through that in the video. Another thing that you can do for technique building practice are blocked chords, which is just basically going through the inversions of a particular chord. So again, when you're playing, you can readily see your chords in any inversion. So all of that's on the technique building. The other block, progressions, and I talked about not too long ago, some of the popular progressions that you can just sit and practice. Go to a different key. And I talked about how you can practice those things. The last section, or the last block that you want to practice, a repertoire. And so whatever kind of music you're interested in, blues, rock, gospel, funk, whatever it is. So if you can find some charts. A source that I use to get music a lot, Sheet Music Plus. So you might say, well, I don't know anything about reading music. Well, you don't have to. A lot of the popular song chords comes with chord symbols over the sheet music. And for a lot of years before I learned how to read music, those are what I follow. So you see a C, tells you play a C chord. You see a D with a little M, it tells you play a D minor. And in the video, I point out some books that I use for practicing songs. Some Beatles books and some popular songs. I have about 1,500 pop songs over the last 50 years. And you can use that for practicing. So in that section, I talk about a whole lot of things about practicing, because you want your practicing, whenever you sit to practice, you want that to be structured. Of course, there are times that you just want to sit and jam and have fun and just play whatever comes to mind. But I would say a good 80% of your practicing, especially at the beginner's level, should be structured, because you want to sort of build structure, build proper technique, start learning how to focus at the beginner's level. You want to get some traction, you want to get moving. And so being able to have specific things each day that you say, this is what I'm going to focus on. If you only have 20 minutes to practice, you can say, I'm going to break this 20-minute up into, 6-minute blocks. For 6 minutes, I'm going to work on some technique. The next 6 minutes, I'm going to work on some progressions. And the remaining minutes, I'll work on some repertoire. So it's very important to have stuff structured like that. And I go through all of this in the video, The Beginner's Guide to Learning the Piano. And there are a whole other list of things that I talk about in this video. And so you can jump over to my website at www.pianolessonwithwarren.com. You'll see the video there under video tutorials, The Beginner's Guide to Learning the Piano, or you can click the link below. That will take you straight to my store. And so if you're a beginner that's been sort of bouncing around from YouTube channel to YouTube channel, trying to find, just some, here's what you do, this is how you do it in this order to get you started, this video would be perfect for you. Even if you're an intermediate and you want to see, is there any topics or any gaps that I need to sort of fill, things that I need to learn that I missed out on? Again, this video would be a good purchase for you. All the things discussed in this topic is going to last you for months and months and months, because it's a lot of information. By no means you should try and cram all of this within a month, because it's a lot of information. It's just a guide. This video is a guide to get you started. And so you can use this guide in conjunction with whatever other channels you follow. If you've been following me, you've seen a lot of other videos pertaining to stuff. So use this video guide with those videos that I've created or with other channels that you follow, and say, okay, I should be working on chord progression. This guy's talking about this particular chord progression, so let me add it to my practice routine, and so on and so forth. That's what I wanted to discuss with you guys today. My new tutorial, The Beginner's Guide to Learning the Piano. Head over to my store and check it out. Again, as always, I'm thankful for the support from you guys. I thank you for the questions. I know a lot of you guys have reached out to me with questions and suggestions and tutorials I should be doing or you'd like me to do, and I'm going to get through all of that. There's a lot of things going on, and so I can't get to everything at once, but I have a physical notepad that I write down all the tutorials that I want to do and I want to cover. And so, bear with me. I'll get to your request soon. Until then, I just want to say keep listening, keep singing, and keep practicing, because that's how you improve as a musician. Be sure to give me a thumbs up. If you haven't checked out my Facebook page yet, same handle, pianolessonwithwarren.com. I recently also joined Instagram, so you can find me over there too at pianolessonwithwarren.com. Catch you soon, and have a wonderful day.